The cuts were cool. You know, that wasn't the first time we had cuts. We've had cuts multiple years. Early on, we had a lot of cuts. Then we kind of went away from the cuts, and we're back at the cuts. The timing of the cuts really was controversial, but I was okay with it. And you know what's interesting about everyone who did get cut? You never, even the sprint, you didn't get cut because of that.
Right.
You got cut because of that and performance in other events that kept you down and low. And, Matt had a horrible sprint, but again, he had done very well on everything else, so he had enough points to advance. The right people advanced. Then some of the workouts, then having such a small field for the next couple days, allowed us a lot of flexibility and a lot of freedom to do cool things like that clean event.
That was awesome.
So that format couldn't be done with 20 men and 20 women. That format couldn't be done with more than 10. It could. Yeah, actually, let me rephrase that. It could. You just be there all night. You just be there all day.
It would be a longer day.
Yeah, exactly. So that format worked great, and that's something you can do when you have 10 and 10. Some of the other tests and events we had, same concept. You couldn't do things like that, and that's why I was excited about the format. It's like, okay, now we get to have some fun with scheduling, with testing, with all of it. And we're going to continue to have cuts this year again, so it'll be there'll be a lot of controversy around that too.
Of course. Do you think, looking back on the cuts, I know there was especially a lot of controversy about that cut right after the sprint, and people saying that the tests before that sprint and leading up to that sprint were not well-rounded. Before, like not having a heavy, waiting for the clean until after that cut to balance things. What do you say to that?
I mean, that first test was heavy.
Yeah.
You needed to be strong. There was that you needed to be strong to do well on that first test. It wasn't your typical. You needed to be strong and well-rounded. Let's put it that way. And that's the kind of strength we're looking for. We're not looking for We're not looking for the strongest. We're looking for the fittest. And you're going to express that strength at high heart rate. In a limited number of tests, let's say you have 4 or 5 tests. I want to try to capture a lot of fitness and less of specialty.
Yes.
And so in 4 or 5 tests, there's not going to be as many isolated things, like isolated strength tests, for example. Now, the other point to that, let's talk logistically. It's really hard to test strength amongst, a couple hundred people down to 50. The tests that we did do and that we did give them, I thought were completely fair. And, the sprint was definitely a curveball. Some people were prepared for it and others weren't. But I didn't have any issue with it at all.